Hey guys, this is Meet the Attorney. On this episode of Meet the Attorney, I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman that focuses on helping you get financing or set up the whole business model for a franchise. So if you're looking to buy a franchise or you're looking to get some money because you have a current franchise and looking for someone to represent you, this is the episode for you. This is going to be an amazing episode. I learned a lot because I've actually never ever talked about this on the show. So I was super excited to get him on, and I got him on. So without further ado, enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Solutions for Local Law Firms, the podcast that provides you with all the latest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. If you are looking to substantially increase your caseload in the next 6 months, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's the host of our show, the local business guy himself, Frank Deming.
Hello, everyone. This is Frank Deming, the local business guy, and welcome to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Law Firms. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, everyone. I hope you guys are having a rockin' week thus far. Today, I'm going to get into a topic that actually I've never talked about on this show. So you guys are in for a treat because I'm going to be learning as much as you're going to be learning because I actually know nothing about this type of practice area when it comes to attorneys. And I forgot to say, this is Meet the Attorney. So without further ado, meet the great Nate Riordan. How's it going, Nate?
It's going good, Frank. Thanks for having me on the show.
Hey, I'm happy that you are here. Nate, just for the listeners out there, can you tell us who you are and what do you do?
Sure. I'm Nate Riordan, and I am the founder of a law firm in Seattle, West Coast Franchise Law. We represent franchisees. We help franchisees get their deals done. We help franchisees start up. We help them buy other assets from other franchisees, usually restaurants, and we help them refinance. We help them sell, and we help them partner up, strategic venture, and we are generally their business attorneys with respect to building their franchise restaurant empire.
Awesome. Like I said, I have never had anyone on this show, so I'm super excited about this topic because I've never had anyone on the show talk about franchising and and definitely not an attorney that talks about helping small business owners franchising. Speaking of small business owner, I am a small business owner. And I'm just curious about something about franchisee because I remember I would say like 15, maybe 20 years ago now. I remember going to a seminar and we was talking to this guy who was a business coach. So he was trying to get all our business coaches or all of his clients to enter his business coach program. And one of the things he said that drew my attention, he said 93% of all franchises actually succeed. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was his selling point to tell us that he had a cookie cutter model to help small business owners reach closer to that 93%. But anyway, that's a little sidebar thing. But it leads me into my first question. My first question for you, and I'm sure people are dying to know, is it easier to grow a business or as a franchisee in this day and age?
I can only give you my keyhole, and I'll give you a few anecdotes. But statistically, I don't know. And I got into it. I got into a debate with some other franchise attorney. Like, are you more likely to succeed as a franchisee and not? And what are the statistics? And
yes,
generally, what I'd seen is that you are more likely to succeed as a franchisee because there's an infrastructure around you, and there's less for you to create yourself.
Yeah.
And he challenged me on that, and I don't know, it's just one of those conversations where like, yeah, it is, no, it isn't. Like nobody had any access to any actual stats. The 93% figure that you're quoting is that had gone through some kind of a sales tweak, because I've never heard any like. There's not a 93% success rate on any format of small business startup. I would say this. There are some people who are just not franchisees. They shouldn't be. And that's because they want to be creative and they want to do their own thing. And that's not franchising. Franchising is, you're being handed a business model, and then you're going to execute on that business model. And there's creativity to exercise within the contours of that business model, but you're not making up the name and the sign and the product and how you're going to sell it. And you should be getting advice or a marketing plan on how you're going to get business and how you're going to get customers and how you're going to charge them. So if you're someone who bridles under that, you'll be miserable and you won't grow because you'll hate it. I mean, if you don't love what you're doing, or at least, if you don't love what you're doing, you're just not going to grow. So that's kind of the touchy-feely answer.
Yeah. No, I get
There's
it.
The more like the question that, and probably more of the questions you're asking is, it's easier to get financing as a franchisee, depending on the franchise system you're in. But by and large, it's easier to get financing, and it's easier to get space. So if you wanted to go to owning, and also it's easy to manage a larger system. So if it's a franchise system. So if I have a shopping center and I'm looking for something that's going to draw people to it so that other tenants are going to think, oh, this is great because this restaurant that's in the shopping center, out on the parking lot, in the outlot, that's going to bring people into the parking lot. And then they're going to see the other stores, and then maybe they'll come in and do that. And so you want what you call an anchor tenant on some level. And so could I get a Starbucks? Wouldn't that be great? There's a lot of trips to a Starbucks. Starbucks is not a franchise, but it does make my point, which is if you and I started a coffee shop and we went down to some guy who just set up a strip mall, right? And he's got an end cap with a drive-through on it, and he's thinking, I'm going to put a coffee shop down the end. And that's going to be attractive. Mm-hmm. You and I come in and it's Nate and Frank's coffee. Mm-hmm. And Starbucks comes in and they say, you know what? We'll pay you the exact same as Nate and Frank's coffee for that space. They're absolutely going to give it to Starbucks because everybody knows Starbucks. People are going to be more inclined to come there. And however you feel about supporting local and all of that, simple fact is people are going to go to Starbucks. And I should qualify what I said. There is one franchisee in Starbucks. They own the rights to all of Hawaii. So that's just an example of like Taco Bell or McDonald's or Wendy's, all more likely to get attention from that landlord and be able to go into that space. They're going to have a leg up. I'll give you a different anecdote. I had a client who was buying 32 Taco Bells for, let's say, $50 million. And a large bank that we all know loaned him $50 million. And at some point when we were closing the transaction, doing the deal, I said to him, you know what? You had a lot of different options when you got out of school, because I knew his past. What made you choose to do this? And he looked at me and he said, hey, his name was Mike. Nate, do you think this bank would have loaned me the entire purchase price for these 32 stores if it was Mike's Tacos? No. They're loaning. I'm sure they love me and all, but they're loaning because it's Taco Bell. It's
Taco Bell.
And Taco Bell's got a record of success. So right there in that example, you take the same restaurants doing the same volume, having the same net profit, you're going to be able to borrow more to buy those stores if it's a known franchise than if it's a local, call it unflagged, independent cluster of restaurants. So
interesting.
more access to capital, especially when you get larger.
Yeah. You know what I find out of curiosity, I find that fascinating, by the way, but let me ask you this. Why? What was that?
Is it really fascinating? I mean,
I do, because I'm a business owner, so my eyes are kind of.
It's not like the Northern Lights or something that's actually. But anyway, I'm kidding around. But
no, it's funny because I was curious. What got you into this type brand of law? What exactly? What excitement you saw that you said? What opportunity did you see and say, "Wow, I want to help people do this"?
I wish I had this great story where there was this guy walking along and the light bulb goes on and he passionately leaps into this niche. I wish that was my story. I really do. And I should probably make it up, right? I should probably redo my story, because who would know?
No one.
But Frank, I'm just going to tell you the truth. Okay?
Sure.
Right on.
I appreciate that.
I started life as a bankruptcy attorney. I got hired by a law firm that represented franchisees. And the franchisees at the time were having a lot of financial problems, and they wanted more people in their firm who were familiar with the issues that arose around financial distress. And so I ended up working there and helping people sell distressed franchise restaurants, like a short sale as we know it, right? Like there'd be 20 million owed and somebody would buy for 10 million. We'd have to negotiate the fact that, okay, we don't have enough money to pay everybody. And then the people that were buying those stores came back and hired me to help them go buy more stores. Said, oh, you know what? You get the drill. You know how it goes. You know what the problems are on the other side. We want you to be the one to help us buy more distressed assets. And then I did that. And then pretty soon they started asking me for other stuff. Like, hey, can you look at this lease? I at least had the presence of mind to go, yes, absolutely, I can look at your lease. And then I ran down the hall of the real estate department and learned how to do a lease. and now I've done hundreds of leases. So I kind of fell into it, and I started, doing distress work, and then I was just doing regular work, and then I was just an advisor. And I suppose I would not have stayed in that vein if I had not enjoyed it. And what I enjoy about this industry are two things. One, my clients own the business. I advise people that own the business. Even I have clients that do $280 million, $500 million of revenue, but there's one person who owns the business. And so it's not like representing like a bank where your client is a person who works at the bank. So I enjoy working with someone when all of what they're doing is on the line. Like it's a big deal. It's not their job, it's their life. And that I get off on that. That's cool.
That's awesome.
And along the way, franchisees tend to be family people. And just generally, they're just big on that. I just think that's really true. And so when I go to their conferences, I meet their kids, I meet their spouses, and I end up at weddings and birthday parties, and it's been really gratifying. To see the effect of what you're doing. Yeah. But here's the other thing. I've represented so many people that their origin story on getting into franchising starts with, I came to this country with nothing, $20, $200 in my pocket. I got a job washing dishes at this store, and now I own 50 of them. And I've heard that story so many times, it's not even remarkable. It is a true testament to the upward mobility of a hardworking immigrant in in the United States.
In the U.S., yeah. Now, the funny thing is no, not funny, but the interesting thing to me is that you you have this passion, you stumbled upon that, which happens a lot, by the way. But not only that, you actually learn, you learned it on the fly. So I have to call you out on this, Nate. It is a fascinating story. It's not.
Oh, aren't you sweet, man? That's really nice.
No, that's good because you stumbled upon it. And it's not something that you went, you learned it. You stumbled upon it. And you took action. That's a good business story.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, attorney, are you running a lot of digital ads or maybe even SEO, Facebook ads, et cetera, and you're not getting the results that you're hoping for? Have you been trying to generate leads online, and although you are getting some results, you're thinking, man, something's got to be wrong because I should be getting a lot more attention? Well, if that's you, I want to help you out. Give us a call, 888-416-7752. I'd love to sit down, find out a little bit more about your business, and see if we can help you. Now, even before you do that and before we sit down and talk, I'd love for you to go to our website, lbmsllc.com. Once you type that, you're going to see on the top right-hand corner of the page a little green button that says Free Online Report. I want you to click on that button, fill out the form, and you will be emailed within 24 hours a free online report as to see exactly what's going on in your business, how are you showing up online, and that's the first step to be able to decipher exactly what's going on in your business. So if you would love a free analysis and to help us to get you to the next level, take that action right now. Download the free online report, and that will be the first step. Then give us a call at 888-416-7752, and we will schedule some time together. So with that, I'm going to bring you right back to the show.
Right on. I mean, that's twice you've used the word fascinating. And in The Princess Bride, Inigo Montoya turns to the Sicilian and he says, "You keep on using that word. I don't think you know. I don't think it means what you think it means." Anyway.
Well, I guess I'm easily amused.
You guys, you're in the right place. You're fascinated by tales of business. So right on, man.
Yeah, I love business stories. That's why I always ask that question usually, how do you get started and why this and yada, yada, yada. But moving right along, I just want to see, learn a little bit more about you and how you can help people who are, either listening to this or maybe thinking about franchises, et cetera, et cetera. Out of curiosity, what are some of the ways that we can leverage, your brand to grow businesses as a franchisee? Let's say, you told us some stories about some immigrants, and you actually going to their events. I think that's incredible in and of itself. But let's not even talk about that. But how does your brand grow business as a franchisee?
We help you get deals done. And when you want to grow, whether you are developing stores, so you're going out and you're finding real estate and you're building, or whether you are buying somebody else, the more you let us in and advise you and give us the ability to share with you the benefit of our prior experience in us having a ringside seat at watching people succeed and fail at the same things, I think the more likely you'll be to succeed yourself. And I've had people show up and say, well, I'm going to do this. And part of the value of what you get from us is not just us, but the people we know. I mean, if you, in this context, honestly, in the legal context, if we can't help you with it, we know someone who does. Mm-hmm. So I will set you up with somebody who will do a great job finding you real estate for whatever venture it is that you're in. And I will set you up with any number of lenders or people who assist with lending and financing and help you work out the refinance of your stores with an eye towards adding more. And if you've got questions about well, look, here's where I am. How do I get to where I need to be next? I can definitely get you started. I can say, look, here's you need to your business needs to look like this in several different categories for you to be an attractive borrower for a lender. And you need to have this kind of infrastructure in order for you to be able to get approved to buy more stores by the franchisor. Or sometimes I'll say, you need to stop pretending that this franchisor is going to let you buy more stores because they're not. And I know that because I know what this franchisor strategy is. You might need to think about adding a second brand. And let's talk about what you can do in a second brand, given that this is the brand you're in and there are rules around, what you can own and what you can do. You can't own Burger King and McDonald's at the same time. They both hate that.
Yeah.
You can't own another burger place.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, you can't do that. But I always thought that was, I didn't know there was an attorney that did that. I thought that was always the franchise that as a franchisee, I had to go out to use the attorney that the franchise had to help me figure this out. I didn't know that it was actually, you had to go out.
Like the franchisor's attorney?
Right.
Yeah, they're not, they're decent people, but they're not there to help you. Not that way.
Gotcha.
I think if you asked a franchise, like, let's say I'm working with Taco Bell, and they got people inside and they got people outside attorneys, inside attorneys.
Correct.
I'm sure they all see their mission brightly as, hey, we're helping Taco Bell. And by helping Taco Bell, we're helping you. But they're not going to negotiate your lease for you because they're not going to have you come back and say, this lease didn't work out. I can't believe you guys, let me sign this. And that is just prudent. So you got to get your own lawyer to do your lease. And if you're listening to this and the franchisor is negotiating your lease, you need to rethink that approach.
There you go. I didn't know that. I always, because the only reason I'm asking that question is because I happen to know someone who owns a Hardee's. I don't know if is there a Hardee's out in the West Coast?
No, but I'm from Wisconsin, man. I used to go to Hardee's.
Okay, cool. So, and I remember him saying, that, they provide you with a lawyer. They do, he was trying to convince me to get a franchise, and I'm like, I'm not into it. And so that's why I asked the question, because
there are some franchises who, my example isn't probably exactly dead on, because if you're a McDonald's franchisee or Jack in the Box franchisee, you're leasing from the franchisor. They're going to buy the real estate, they're going to build it, and you're going to, on some level, they are negotiating your lease.
Gotcha.
Maybe they'll lease from somebody else and then turn around and sublease to you. So there's different roles in that process, but at the end of the day, only your attorney is truly looking out for your best interests. It is not okay, acceptable, or permissible for someone else's attorney to put your best interest first.
Gotcha.
That should not happen.
Now you've made a lot of references to restaurant franchises. Are those the only types of franchisees you work with? Restaurant types, Carl's Jr., et cetera, et cetera?
The way it's worked out, most of our business, almost without exception, our business is by referral. And when you typically get referred by people who know you. So I started in food, and I've just kind of continued in food because that's where we know people. There are, once in a while, I'll think, we should get into hotels or, dealership. And, really those thoughts are a little arrogant just because we're just not that big. There's a lot of food. There's a lot of food out there.
Oh, yeah.
So do we do different other franchises? Yes, all the time. Not with the same size and prevalence that we do restaurant franchisees, but we do them.
Okay.
Somebody who's got, 9 oil change franchise locations.
Mm-hmm.
And in all honesty, we're good at all of those, but it's gotten to the point where I really know a lot about fast food restaurants.
Right. It's like I get it, because it's like me. I mean, from 2018 till now, all I deal with is attorneys, because I know exactly, how to market that business, how to help attorneys and all that. So, and then, do other people come to me? Yeah, they do. But I usually say, nah, I'm really good with attorneys. So I get it. It makes sense. Now we talked a little bit about obtaining financing for franchisee, how easy it is. Talk to me a little bit about that. Like, why is it simply just because the name? I know you mentioned that before. You come in and you want a McDonald's. You told us the story about the guy with the Taco Bell. Yep, I got this money because it was Taco Bell. But is that the only reason why it's easier to get financing as a franchisee?
It's just statistics. It's in a top tier national franchise like Taco Bell, you're just more likely to succeed. And the Taco Bell on the corner by your house might have changed hands 3 times. It doesn't look any different.
Yeah.
Maybe there's subtle differences inside, differences in staffing, differences in, the amount of money they're spending in and around the store on keeping it up. But if I'm a lender and I lend to you and you own a Taco Bell and you die, hope that never happens, but people do die. Somebody else can step in and run that thing, and I've still got something that has value. Whereas if Nate and Frank are running the coffee shop and we both die, it's less likely that somebody else is going to be interested in running Nate and Frank's coffee shop. So
yeah,
it's just the reason it's easier to finance is because it's less risky.
Less as a risk. Yeah, that's what I was getting. Okay, makes sense. I wanted to go back to that because I felt that maybe someone may have that question out there, since kind of left them hanging there. Now the funny thing about franchisees is I've like I said, I know my buddy who has a Hardee's, and I know that and you mentioned someone that had 50 Taco Bells. Okay, so what? How do people get so big with these things? Do you help them with that, or is it something that it's just business savviness?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hello there, listeners. If you're an attorney and you would love to be a guest on the show so you can promote your services to people that listen to the show and beyond, give us a call at 888-416-7752 or send us an email at podcast@lbmsllc.com. One of my associates in the podcasting team will send you an email and connect with you, schedule some time, send you the podcast intake form, and schedule you to be interviewed on the show. So if that's something that you really would want to do, go ahead and take one of those actions, and we'll take it from there. So until then, enjoy the rest of the show.
One of the things that's true of franchise networks at their best is that what you get are other franchisees. And so you come into a franchise system and you have the ability to get mentored. So the way people get big is, I started with 2 stores, and then I built 2 more, and I got to 4. And then the guy next to me who had 8 stores wanted to sell, so I bought the 8 stores. Now I got 12 stores. And then the guy south of me sold. Well, he had 30 stores, and I bought all of those. Now I got 42 stores. And so it's just
networking.
I mean, so when I say networking, you're going to have people who are, as you're thinking through, like, how do I buy 30 stores? You have people you can ask, how did you buy 30 of these? And you see those people quarterly or annually, and you sit around and talk about business. You're like, hey, I want to get bigger. How do you do that? Well, you got to, they'll even know, like, well, Joe next is getting, old, gray, long in the tooth, whatever you want to say. You should talk to him about selling to you before he goes to a broker and puts it on the market. Well, that's a good idea. And you talk to Joe, and he's like, well, I don't know. You're right. And I'm going to go through the whole thing. And like, you'll actually kind of get led through being able to do that. I mean, you can't, right. It's not autopilot. It's still retail. You still have to do things.
Yeah.
And, there's nothing, well, there's very little harder than selling hot food consistently day in and day out. I mean, if you think about, like, it's hard enough without having to be part of a franchise that's got, like, hey, here's who you order from, here's how the food shows up, here's how you prepare it, here's the equipment you buy. You've got to make it like $12 ticket average at a time, day in and day out. Like, if one unsatisfied customer makes noise, right? So people vote that way. I don't have to please that many people in my business. At any given time, I mean, you might have 200 customer visits to your restaurant in a given day.
Yep.
I'd say we max out if 10 people who we're actively working with call the office in a day, because we're working on a little bit bigger stuff and there's just fewer things, right? So, like, it's hard. And the people you're managing are, it is a minimum wage, or, more than minimum wage. There's a low wage workforce. And that comes with it. Those people have their own challenges. Their car breaks down, and like, it's a big deal. Like, you just have to help and manage people who don't make as much money get through their job, and you end up getting through their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard challenge to do that.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. That's I know exactly what you're talking about. I have a little bit of an off the cuff question for you here. Let's just say I own a restaurant, just a regular restaurant, and I want to convert that into, say, a TGI Fridays or any of these other restaurants there. Do you help people do that?
I have helped people do that.
Okay.
But what that looks like is go talk to the franchisor, find out if they'll do it, and then come back to me with whatever they say, and we can work with that. I mean, I can tell you, right now, if you own, let's say you have just a regular pizza place,
mm-hmm.
and there are some pizza franchises, smaller, regional, who will come in and help you convert to one of their concepts. But if you want to be a Pizza Hut and you've got your own, they're not going to convert it. You're going to push over the building and build a whole new building that looks like a Pizza Hut. So
it's got to look the same.
Really converting.
Yeah,
I would say that converting to the same, but it's very rare.
Ah, gotcha.
Largely because they have, they've got their own floor space model. And also, like, if you're the kind of person who started your own independent restaurant, deciding that now you're going to do franchising, that just doesn't, people just don't work like that. You just don't do it. You're just a different kind of person. You started a restaurant, and that's really cool. Like, that's it. But if that's what you're into, having a whole change into, instead of doing my thing, I'm going to do this exactly the way they say, their recipes, their menu, their pricing. I'm going to do instead of what I'm doing now, even though I got all the way to the point where I figured this out, built this thing, and I'm selling pizzas myself. I'd say it's, I wouldn't say it's never happened, but it just, it doesn't happen very often.
Doesn't happen often. Yeah. But I was just asking you more in a sense for the audience, in case there was somebody out there thinking about something like that and say, hey, you know what, I'm struggling with this restaurant. This guy seems like what he's talking about. Maybe he can help me convert into a franchise. Just curious. I was just saying that because it just popped in my head as you were talking now. But I would imagine it's a mindset thing, and I can imagine that it would be a little bit more difficult to do. All right, cool. So, just a few more questions here, Nate, and I'll let you go. I know you're a very busy man helping all these franchisees. I don't want to.
I like to tell my kids, Frank, I'm the most important attorney in the state of Washington.
There you go. That's important to know.
They're not buying that, so I don't know if you are, but
hey, the only person that needs to buy that is yourself, because once you believe it, that means your clients will believe it, and that's why they hire you. That's the way it works. I believe in that.
That's good advice. I'll take it. All right, what else you
got? Anyway, so I heard that private equity has basically entered into the retail franchise. What's your thoughts on that thing?
So, it's kind of like it is what it is, right? So, and it's kind of like when minimum wage, the push for minimum wage, $15 an hour was on, and that took hold here in Seattle earlier than most other places. I don't know if it's first, it was right. And people will weigh in different opinions. Like, well, you can have your opinion. You can be happy or you can be mad or whatever you want, but it is what it is. It's here. So you got to figure out how to do this, or, go fish, I guess. Right. So private equity groups have seen opportunity in owning franchise restaurant organizations, and they have more access to capital. They're for large franchisors, they are an attractive franchisee because they have the ability to access capital and professional management, and they can grow more quickly. And it's become fashionable in franchising to have larger store counts amongst your franchisees. So fewer franchisees, more stores. And for the franchisor, that means if I say, okay, I need you to buy a new sign for all of your stores. Every sign's $10,000. So if I got 40 stores, now I got to finance $400,000 or have $400,000.
Jesus.
Well, it's just more likely that the private equity group can tap into the capital to do it. So
wow,
they are, and it's a different character. Like it does get away from the mom and pop that have owned franchise restaurants, and in some one common version of that is you and I own 100 Taco Bells, and private equity group comes in and buys some percentage of what we of this, and we're kind of working with them, kind of partners with them. They want somebody to manage, they want to invest, and then I want to grow, you want to grow. So we've got them behind us as partners. We can go convince franchisors that we can be bigger. We can convince banks that we can take on more debt, and we can go expand. And so there are franchisees who see the opportunity in partnering with private equity, becoming part of private equity, and then growing and exiting and saying, look, if I can have whatever it is, 20%, 30%, 40% of this venture shared with a partner like that, that's going to increase the pie to the point where that 40% is going to be bigger than if I owned the 100% and I was smaller. Does that make sense?
So yeah, it does. A question just popped in though. Do you feel this is going to happen? Like, is this going to become like a very common ground thing, or is it?
Oh, it's already pretty common. But there's thousands of restaurants out there. So
oh yeah,
it is more common when you get around to large franchisee gatherings, and you meet franchisees, there's more private equity sprinkled in, investing in those ventures and growing those ventures.
Got it.
Is it an absolute sea change that we're never going to look back from? Who knows? I don't believe that. I don't think there's everything's a pendulum, right? Like we're going to have big franchisees, and that's a bad idea. Now we're going to have small franchisees. Like it's just everything goes. Franchisors we're going to own half our restaurants and operate them themselves. No, now we're going to own none of them, and we're just going to have all franchisees, just back and forth.
Yeah. It's just the nature of the beast, if you will, right? This has all been awesome, Nate. What's the website where people could take a look at you, and find out more about you?
It is westcoastfranchiselaw.com.
Awesome. I will put that in the show notes. So in case anybody wants to reach out to you, I believe you and I are also connected on LinkedIn. Nate, can I put your LinkedIn on the show notes as well?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. So there you go, guys. If there is anyone out there who's listening to the show right now, if you've been thinking about owning a franchise, or if you're having some kind of issues with franchises, I'm sure Nate will love a phone call from you just to reach out to Nate and see if he can help you out. I mean, he's a well-known lawyer in the Washington state area, and specifically Seattle. And I'm sure that he'll help you with any issues that you have. Before I let you go, I have just one more question for you. Is there anything I did not ask you, Nate, that you think will benefit the audience?
Your audience should know that we represent people all over the United States. That
awesome.
A lot of our clients, most of our clients, are not in Washington State, and it's kind of interesting to me. When we all went remote, it was weird and different, including here for us, but it wasn't that weird and different because we've been operating remote for forever with respect to our clients.
Yeah.
I've had clients. I had one guy, he hired us when he was 11 stores, and we were with him until he grew all the way to 50 stores, and then he sold them all. And along the way, we refinanced, we renegotiated leases, we built new stores. And when it was all over, and after he'd sold, he was going to be in Las Vegas for a conference, and I flew down there to have dinner with him because he and I had never met in person.
That's awesome.
it was like 15 years, right? And just never worked out. Like we're like, we'll see. You're missing you by a day here and there. So, so that we're everywhere.
Okay. I'm glad I asked that question because I forgot that question actually. So there you go. If you're anywhere in the United States and you're thinking about a franchise, definitely reach out to Nate. I'm sure he'll take care of you. With that, I'm going to put an end to this episode. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. Look in the show notes, click on all the links that you see there. Reach out to Nate. I'm sure he'll knock you out. So with that, this has been Frank Deming, the local business guy. You've just been blessed by the great Nate Riordan. Take care and laugh it up.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Law Firms, the podcast that provides you with all the latest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. If you would like to know more about the topic we discussed on the show today, reach out to Frank and his team at 888-416-7752 and schedule a discovery call with one of the marketing consultants. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, send an email to podcast@lbmsllc.com and we will put you on the schedule. With that being said, until next week, make it a successful digital marketing day. Peace out.